Naomi takes a dig at Sasha Banks ahead of WWE return. Vince McMahon rejected Bobby Lashley's request to fight in the UFC this year. 5 major surprises rumored for WWE Raw. Recently re-signed WWE star came back with hard feelings. Seth Rollins sends Cody Rhodes a message. Theory on what has changed since Vince McMahon retired from WWE. Let's jump right into our first story. 5 major surprises rumored for WWE Raw. We've reached the halfway point of September, and Raw has certainly picked up pace. The build-up to WWE Clash at the Castle continues, with a lot of that IIS set to happen on the Red brand this week. So what will be the fallout from last week's bizarre ending to Raw? What will happen this week to continue to pique our interests? There could be big surprises that WWE has in store for us on the Red brand this week. Number 5. What surprise awaits in the first-time ever matchup on Raw? In a first-time ever matchup, Bobby Lashley is set to take on AJ Styles. It's a big match that we would have loved to see at a show like Clash at the Castle, but for whatever reason, it's happening on Raw. To provide a little context, last week, Lashley defended the title in an excellent bout against Ciampa. The match was almost sabotaged thanks to 2-time Grand Slam champion The Miz. However, AJ Styles came out to counter The Miz, and in the process, Lashley managed to retain his title. Styles has now been granted a title shot. A big surprise would be to see Styles win the US title from the almighty Bobby Lashley, who has had arguably the best run of his career this year. It would be slightly surprising if The Miz interfered in this match. Number 4. What will Riddle have to say in the exclusive interview? Riddle hasn't been seen since SummerSlam 2022 when he was taken out by Seth Rollins despite already being injured. He only made it worse for himself when he called out Rollins despite his match being postponed due to an injury. This week on Raw, we will see Riddle in an exclusive and presumably pre-taped interview. The King of Bros is expected to announce that he will be fit to return for Clash at the Castle 2022. However, it would be a surprise if he declared that he was far from ready to return. Number 3. A bizarre twist to the car crash story. One of the background storylines on Raw last week was that of the car crash. We saw a lot of commotion in the background with the car crash while Kevin Owens was being interviewed. Nikki Ash and Doudrop were among those seen inspecting the scene. It wasn't a big deal per se, but WWE wanted it to be in the back of our minds. The ending of Raw saw AJ Styles beat The Miz before the Phenomenal One was distracted by what was happening in the crowd. On the front row, the returning Dexter Lumis was seen being handcuffed and forced away by the security team. Putting 2 and 2 together, many of us have simply assumed that Lumis is behind the car crash. What a surprise would be if there is a new twist that involves another superstar and not Lumis. Number 2. Seth Rollins to be occupied with the Street Profits. Since SummerSlam 2022, Seth freaking Rollins has been occupied by the Street Profits. He mocked them and told them that they needed to break up, and the seeds of a breakup have seemingly been planted in the process. He also defeated Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins in excellent matches, proving both superstars' singles potential. However, given that it has been a mini feud, not too much has been made of it. It will be interesting to see how things play out, but it would also be surprising if his mini feud with the former tag team champions continues. Number 1. The surprising outcome in the Women's Tag Team Title Tournament. In the first round of the Women's Tag Team Title Tournament qualifier, Asuka and Alexa Bliss will team up to face Nikki Ash and Doudrop. Asuka and Alexa Bliss have been occupied with Bayley's newly formed faction. They will team up with Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair at Clash at the Castle to face Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. While Asuka and Alexa Bliss are expected to win the contest, it would be slightly surprising if Nikki Ash and Doudrop advance instead. This could likely happen via interference from Io Sky and Dakota Kai. Vince McMahon rejected Bobby Lashley's request to fight in the UFC this year. WWE star Bobby Lashley has revealed that he is still keen on getting back in the MMA ring and asked Vince McMahon if he could fight in the UFC. Former WWE champion Bobby Lashley has featured in a few MMA promotions over the years, having fought in Strikeforce and Bellator, to name a few. His last fight was in 2016 when he faced and defeated Josh Appelt in Bellator. In an interview with Fightful, Lashley said that he was in the stands at UFC 276, where Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H were also present. Lashley said that he texted Vince McMahon during the event and asked him if he could fight in the UFC. "It's still in me. I'm just that guy. I was talking before because I know that we were doing stuff with the UFC. Vince and Stephanie and all of them were sitting ringside and I was in the stands also. I'm texting Vince, can I get in there? He's like, come on. So I still have it in me. I love fighting. Before when I was fighting, it was kind of stay busy until I get back here. I just always knew I was gonna be back. So I was like, let me take some fights, stay active, continue doing what I enjoy. And it was something that kept me honest. You know, you can't just fight and not train," said Lashley. Lashley said that he either wants to do a cage fight or a bare-knuckle fight when he steps back in the MMA ring. Lashley revealed in an interview earlier this year that he wanted to fight in MMA just once, but a string of victories brought him a lot of opportunity. He also stated in the interview that UFC's Dana White offered him a contract, but the promotion didn't allow him to work part-time. which meant that he had to give up his pro wrestling career. Lashley instead chose to fight but later, which allowed him to return and feature in WWE as well. Recently rehired WWE star came back with hard feelings. Recently returned WWE star Top Dollar is grateful that Triple H called him and the rest of Hit Row back into the company. He revealed the conversation he had with the game. After a surprise release from WWE last year, 3 of the 4 members of Hit Row returned to the company last week on WWE SmackDown. Top Dollar and Adnis faced enhancement talents. During his recent appearance on the Busted Open podcast, Top Dollar disclosed what Triple H told him ahead of a return to the company. The game stated that he had no idea as to what happened to them during their first run in the company. He further said that he has no hard feelings towards them. In the conversations I had with Triple H, he was like, "Man, I don't know what happened before, and to be honest with you, I don't care. It's a new place. I want you to understand that you have a clean slate. There's no hard feelings on this side, and I hope that you come with no hard feelings on your side." To me, it was just like a breath of fresh air because it was like I was down, man. When we got released, I was like, Hit Row was hotter than anything in wrestling, period. "I don't care who you are," said Top Dollar. Top Dollar was grateful that Triple H re-signed him and the other 2 members of Hit Row. The reason being, several talented performers were let go over the years who he could have been brought back. Top Dollar, who has been a wrestling fan his entire life, said that being released by the company caused him to turn away from pro wrestling. It was like, it made me stop watching wrestling for the first time in my life. I'm 32 years old and I went 8 months without watching wrestling at all. Like nothing, said Top Dollar. He said that he only watched a few minutes of the Royal Rumble earlier this year and didn't watch any other wrestling. With Triple H at the helm of affairs, Top Dollar and the rest of the Hit Row crew will be guaranteed more TV time in the weeks and months to follow. Seth Rollins sends Cody Rhodes a message. Multi-time champion Seth Rollins recently had some kind words for injured WWE star Cody Rhodes. Rhodes returned to the company this year at WrestleMania 38 and was handpicked by former CEO Vince McMahon to face the Visionary. The American Nightmare then had an enticing feud with Rollins, culminating at WWE Hell in a Cell, where the former wrestled with a torn pectoral muscle. Rhodes is currently sidelined with the injury. During a recent interview with Denise Salcedo at the WrestleMania 39 launch party, the Visionary gave Rhodes credit for wrestling with an injury. Seth Rollins claimed that the bout was one of the greatest matches of all time and tipped his cap to the American Nightmare. "It was hard for them to process," said Rollins. "Even when he took the jacket off, people were thinking, is this real? Is this really going to happen? And then we proceeded to have one of the greatest matches of all time. My hat's off to Cody Rhodes. I do think he owes me one though." In the same interview, the former world champion discussed the American Nightmare's return to the promotion and praised him for grinding his way back to the company. Rollins also credited Cody Rhodes for going out on his own and making himself a new man. "I think he's got some unfinished business here," said Rollins. "I think that is part of why he left to begin with. He wanted to make himself a new man and do it on his own, and he did that. To his credit, he went out and did his own thing. He grinded and made his way back to WWE, and now you know, well, he's on the shelf right now. He's on his way back. Who knows what could happen in the future." WWE announced in June that Rhodes is expected to be out until early next year. Time will tell if that holds true, as the American Nightmare seems to have a plan of his own. Do you think Cody Rhodes will face Seth Rollins one last time to cap off their feud? Let us know in the comments section below. Theory on what has changed since Vince McMahon retired from WWE. WWE Superstar Theory has shared what has changed in the promotion since former CEO, chairman, and head of creative Vince McMahon retired. Theory's 2022 has been stellar so far, seeing a lot of TV exposure as his run as Mr. McMahon's protege started gaining traction. He wrestled commentator Pat McAfee at WrestleMania 38 and became the youngest United States champion in WWE history shortly after. Since winning the Money in the Bank ladder match, A Town Down has teased cash-ins on multiple occasions, including during the build-up to SummerSlam 2022. Though Theory's on-screen mentor and former WWE CEO Vince McMahon has retired, the superstar remains confident in the new creative direction. During a recent interview with TMZ, he spoke about Triple H's role as the head of creative. "Triple H, I feel like he has a very creative mind, and I think now he always says it's very hard to fill Mr. McMahon's shoes, and it's going to take a lot of people to do that. I feel like there's a lot more freedom now and a lot more to explore," Theory said. Having worked so closely with the former WWE CEO during the start of his main roster run, A Town Down had words of admiration for Vince McMahon. Mr. Money in the Bank praised Vince's contributions to the wrestling industry and even mentioned a recent John Cena quote about McMahon, referencing the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. "I would just say with Mr. McMahon, he's always going to be, I think John Cena just said it, if there was a Mount Rushmore, he'd be the only one on it," the Raw star added. It is unclear where the former US champ will go next creatively, but WWE seems to have him touted for big things, given his addition to the top banner on the WWE.com Superstars page. What do you think about the comments on Triple H? You can share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Naomi takes a dig at Sasha Banks ahead of WWE return. Naomi has sent a weird message to Sasha Banks in her latest TikTok video with the boss. The duo walked out of Raw in May. The incident caused a massive uproar among many ardent WWE fans, with the majority supporting the pair. Rumor has it that Banks and Naomi are set to make a return to WWE very soon. The two best friends recently appeared in a short clip Naomi shared on her official TikTok handle. In the caption of the video, the Glow tagged Banks and wrote a rather weird wholesome message. Not sure if it was a dig or an innocent message. At Mercedes Varnado, I got her front, she got my back. The two stars have been the talk of the wrestling world ever since their controversial decision to walk out. Naomi and Banks won the Women's Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania 38. The duo handed the belts to John Laurinaitis before walking out of Raw in May. It looks like Naomi has major respect for the boss. She spoke about teaming up with Sasha Banks on the grandest stage of them all. Easy, Sasha and I have a history together. When she debuted on the main roster, we were in the faction of Team Bad together. I have always admired her. We have had a great relationship together, both work-wise and personal. So it is just natural, she and I together. I have been with a lot of tag team partners, but she is very unique and special, Naomi said. Things have taken quite a drastic turn since Naomi and Banks' walkout. Vince McMahon is no longer the top decision maker in WWE, and Triple H has become the head of creative. It remains to be seen if the WWE Universe will see Banks and Naomi on their TV screens again. The two popular stars are bound to receive a strong ovation and a big pop if they show up soon. Would you like to see the duo back in WWE? Sound off in the comments below.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you